At issue, the federal budget. Mark Carney unveils his government's plan to strengthen Canada and respond to the trade uncertainty from the U.S.
We will build here at home stronger industries, nation-building infrastructures, and millions of more homes for Canadians. We will protect what matters most, our people, our communities, and our sovereignty.
So what's to be made of this first budget under a Mark Carney government and these so-called generational investments? Will they kickstart Canada's economy? I'm Rosemary Barton, here to break it all down tonight. Chantal Hebert, Andrew Coyne, Althia Raj, good to see you all a second time today. Let's start with the budget, then we'll talk about some of the political moves that have happened today. Andrew, what did you make of whether the budget delivered on what it promised to do, which is to transform the economy in a big way?
And to move the moon and the stars and 6 other things. I've never heard such hype in the run-up to an election in my life. It was going to be generational and transformative, and at the same time it was going to involve sacrifices and difficult choices. And at the end of the day, with the exception of the increase in health in defense spending, you could pretty much imagine the Justin Trudeau government delivering the same budget. It's not a huge amount of difference. There's a lot of spending, which we're now taught to call capital spending, which somehow makes it different. Well, that would be more persuasive if there'd been some offsetting cut in non-capital spending and operational spending, but there's very little. It's $13 billion out of $500 billion budget is not a particularly impressive expenditure review. And it'd be more persuasive if we had some real indication that that capital spending was going to lead to higher productive capacity for the economy and therefore more revenues for the government. One indication of why we might doubt that is the ratio of debt costs to revenues is going to go up from 6 cents on the dollar a couple of years ago to 13 cents on the dollar. That's not crisis levels. In 1995, we were spending 36 cents of every dollar on interests, but it's not a particularly appetizing trend. So that's, I think, the biggest failing is there's really not much in the way of a growth strategy in this budget. I would hope we were going to see radical tax reform to really gin up the incentive to invest in this country, even in the face of Donald Trump's tariffs. In the end, what we got was a few warmed over things that they'd already announced on accelerated deductions with a couple of new ones, but it just really doesn't add up to that much.
Althea, do you think it meets the moment?
There's so much I want to say about what Andrew just said. Doesn't meet the moment.
We have Thursday too.
I don't know, because it's hard. What is the moment? Is the moment that we are in anemic growth, that we're facing Donald Trump, that we have elected a technocrat who has a very clear vision for where he wants to go, and he has delivered that budget. I do think it was overhyped. I don't agree that it doesn't do anything for growth. I do think it tries to get there, but it tries to get there with the heavy hand of the state and not maybe what Andrew wants to see, which is deep tax cuts and tax reform. But I do not see a scenario in which Justin Trudeau would ever have delivered this budget. If anything, this is Mark Carney shedding the skin of Justin Trudeau and saying, hello, I'm a new person, and if anything, I want to be more closely aligned with Stephen Harper in terms of the public sector cuts. They're actually deeper than what Stephen Harper did. And some of the things that you're did they know they were doing this, or have they done this on purpose? For example, the copays with refugees on their health care. Remember the whole controversy with Stephen Harper and refugee health care funding? The cuts he made to that, the cuts to international development. Mark Carney is breaking his promise from the last election and going deep with cuts on international development. He's even making cuts at Statistics Canada to lower the frequency of some of the data sets. So I can't see how this is a Justin Trudeau government. If anything, it's attacking the Trudeau government legacy on climate as well.
Okay, Chantal, your take.
Certainly, they are guilty of overselling and under-delivering, which breaks a cardinal rule of politics. You're supposed to do the reverse. So chances are public opinion will be underwhelmed by this budget, but I side more with Althea. One is signing the Trudeau budget, the other her Harper budget. I think Stephen Harper, in the same circumstances, would be more likely to have crafted a budget like this than Justin Trudeau. And I also think that politically there is a rationale for presenting a budget that Stephen Harper might have been able to live with. As for the deficit and the difference between the last Freeland budget and this budget, I think you can see Donald Trump behind the lines of this budget big time. In the ways that the economic situation is presented bears no resemblance to the last full-fledged federal budget. Also in the spending, we'll see, I believe that it either moves private investment or it doesn't, and that's going to be the test of its success or failure.
Okay, I'm running out of time, and as I said, we have Thursday too, but what happened with Chris d'Entremont today? Leaving, resigning from the Conservative caucus, crossing the floor and becoming a Liberal. Andrew, how damaging is that for Pierre Poilievre?
Well, the timing is exquisite, of course. Just when you're trying to mount your attack on the federal budget, now he's going to be answering questions about this. I think the only question is, are there other shoes to drop? There is a lot of discontent within sections of the Conservative caucus with Pierre Poilievre's leadership. I don't think that's a secret. There's been rumors until now, but this is the first one who's actually broken ranks. We'll see if there's others.
Althia, what are you hearing?
Well, there are names circulating, but it's hard to know if it's the beginning of the parade or if it's the end of the parade. One thing, frankly, is that this is not an election budget. The Liberals had no intention of running on this budget. There is no, to use Chrystia Freeland's word, costly political gimmick in this budget. There is no nod to affordability. All the MPs are having to all the grid MPs are having to look back to June and July and point to the tax cut that they ran on in the spring budget to address affordability concerns. So if anybody's looking like what's in it for me directly, you're not going to find anything there. So it is basically hoping and praying that the NDP or that the Green and that a Bloc or a Conservative decides that they don't want to cost the election and they're willing to hold their noses and vote for this.
Chantal, on the politics and the loss of Chris d'Entremont to Pierre Poilievre?
I am hearing that there are others who are reflecting on this, and that I agree with Althia. It does not look like an election platform, but it does look like a budget that is meant to attract the Conservative dissidents that may be thinking that they'd rather run under a progressive Conservative Prime Minister, i.e. Mark Carney, than under Pierre Poilievre.
And what does that mean for his leadership in the long term, do you think?
I have seen nothing today from all the messages I get that bodes well for Pierre Poilievre's leadership, and that 20-point gap in the evaluation of voters of the performance of one versus the other does not bode well either.
Okay, there will be more to talk about on Thursday. Other things will happen. We'll do that then. Maybe we'll have more of the details of what we have looked at today. Thank you all very much for being here.